Welcome back to the shop of Wood Spun Round. This is Doug. I'm glad to have you with me today. Got a little bit of an unusual project. What you see here is a bowl or plate, whatever, a saucer, a dish, whatever you want to call it. This was started by someone else. This is not my original piece of work. This was a friend, a YouTube friend over in, well, I'll tell you who it is. It's Radar. Radar Woodworks. He's over in Tennessee. He started this in this area here. All of the tenon and this third of the blanket itself is very, very punky. You see some spalting here. This is oak, which is a very hard wood to begin with, but then he had all this punky area that was extremely soft. It was chipping out on him. He lost a big chunk here. There's some big strips here. There's a piece on the inside that has come out. I told him he was going to throw it in the trash, and I told him, send it to me if you want to. I'll see what I can do, and if I can do anything with it, I'll finish it out, send it back to you, and tell you what I did. So what I've done to this point, when I got it, this was extremely dry. It's still quite a bit punky. It had been stiffened up. He had put some sanding sealer on it. It had done a fairly good job. I took it a step further, and I wanted to do things that he would have, use things he would have, do things that he could do. So what I've done to this point, I saturated this entire tenon and around the edge, this entire section here with CA, thin CA glue. Nothing special about it. I just poured it on. I had my exhaust fan on so that it could draw the fumes away from me. I still really needed a small fan behind me to blow it away from me. Because when you put CA on punky wood, it doesn't take long, it begins to fume up, and the smoke comes out of that. Very irritating to the eyes, to the nose. And so I got that done and got out of here for a while. Let this set up for about 3 hours, 4 hours. Right now, I have not found, I've been pecking on it for quite a while, and I cannot find a punky area. It is all hard. It's still very, very rough, still very open, but it is hard as it can be now. I did not only the outside, I put some on the inside as well. Let that air dry, did not use any accelerator on it. I just wanted it to dry naturally. So it's as hard as it can be. Well, in fact, I'm going to start to say I'm going to turn my lathe up to 1,000 and get it started. I've got it down to 50 now. Let's see how we're setting in the lathe. Got to turn it up a little bit. It's not exactly true, but it has moved a little bit since he sent it to me. It's not exactly round as it was. It's not terrible out. It's a fairly small piece. What is that, 6.5 inches thereabouts? That's 1,000 RPMs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off while I'm talking to you. I'm going to shape up this tenon a bit, make it a little smaller, both diameter and height wise. Once I do that, I'm going to flip it around. I may work on this outside just a little bit, but I want to flip it around, get it in the chuck, get the inside of it taken care of. But we'll see how this bottom side goes. As long as it goes really well, if it goes as well as I think it's going to go, we may even finish it before we turn it around. So we'll have that to do. All right, like I said, we're set at 1,000 RPMs. Let's see what we can do here. All right, I have not done anything with diameter, but I have done the height of the tenon. Coming here where the punky wood is, and it's still not as hard as it can be, but I can see that glue has penetrated fairly well. I'm going to go ahead and get my diameter set, and then what I want to do before I flip it around is I want to treat this tenon again. I'm going to speed it up just a bit more. All right, that's what I was looking for, 1500. Yes, it's out around. Okay. Okay, I've sized my tenon more like I want it. Yeah, it's still pretty punky in here. The wood has gotten quite a bit stiffer, but this little chunk that chipped out is still so very soft. So what I want to do, I'm going to take this off, resaturate that entire tenon, and I'll bring you back when that has had time to set up and dry just a little. Well, let me show you. There's no sense in making this, there's no secret to it. I just want to got a piece of no slip. I just had this pinched between my chuck and my tail center, or my live center. No need to get real crazy with this because I wasn't going to do a whole lot before I flipped it around. But here we are, just simply soaking it with CA. And I will let this glue not only penetrate fully but dry. You see, you may be able to see it right there. It is standing just a bit, soaking in very slowly. Over here on the other hand, it is saturating, soaking in as quickly as I put it on. I suspect any moment I'll see a puff of smoke. Then again, I may not, because I've already put so much CA on here. I want to go ahead and get this section right here that I opened. I expose that part. Put some more on that very center eye. There's a little smoke. I knew I'd see some. All right. It's looking pretty good here. I will at some point have to finish taking that, what little bit is left of that old tenon off of there. Here's a tip for you. You may be seeing, that's a pencil eraser. I have misplaced or just simply lost the cap that goes on this glue. I had one of those long skinny nozzles that go on it. It actually cracked on me and clogged. Because I didn't get the glue out of it. You take your CA glue, tap it a couple of times, give it a squeeze with it standing straight up. Just a couple of squeezes, make sure that nozzle's empty. Take you a pencil eraser, drop it right on there. That's been like that now for about 6 weeks. Maybe a little longer. Like I said, I'm going to give this some time. I'm going to go watch some more Olympics, and I'll be back here in about an hour or so. I'm going to let that dry on its own. Then we'll come back. We'll put it back on the lathe like it was. I'll do a little more cleaning on this outside. Then we'll flip it around. So I'll be back in just a moment. But what we've done is saturated this punky spalted area a couple of times. I had a little chip out after the first time, so I resaturated all of that. Everything is looking good. Golly, every time I do it, it seems to be a little harder. I reshaped my tenon, got it sized more properly. I'm going to put it back on here with the bottom facing out. I want to work on this bottom just a little bit before I turn it around. And what we're doing here is simply pinching the piece between the live center and the headstock. I've got a piece of shelving material there just to give it a little grip so it doesn't spin on me. this will be pinched in. I'm cinching it up fairly tight. I'm not putting tons of pressure on it, but it's fairly tight and it won't go anywhere. And I'm not really doing any heavy turning either. All I'm doing is I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. I kind of like the size of this. I may bring this line down just a little bit for a foot and then make a nice curve coming out to this edge. I'm going to smooth out this edge as well as try to get rid of some of this darkness that's come from the CA. So still at 1500 RPMs, double checking, make sure nothing's hitting. We're still good. Back with a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Good time to stop, see what I've got, and this is coming out so much nicer. That is almost as if there was nothing wrong with that. I want to take one more pass. I want to eliminate this line right here. Also, I'm going to speed it up just a touch, see if I can't smooth that out just a little bit more before I start sanding. And then once I get that section taken care of, I'll round this over yet again. Alright, let's see what we've got. Here's where that line of blue was. That's totally gone, which is exactly what I was looking for. I've got a nice smooth curve coming out. I've got some small lines here. Some of that is because of hitting this punky area. Some of it is just the wood itself. This oak is extremely hard, but we have really tightened up this punky area. I'll move my tool rest and do a little more work on this rim before we spin it around and start working on the inside. There we go. Shield down. A little bit of shear scrape just to balance it out. time for a little sanding. So we'll slow the speed down. Start with a little bit of 60 grit. Been questioned a bit. About why I start at such a heavy grit. But I really do have a pretty good surface there. But I want to make sure everything is homogeneous, that it's the same, that the solid wood and the punky wood is all the same. And so I can only do that if I go back to a 60 grit. I may have burnished a section with my tool. I may have bruised the wood a little bit. There may still be a little bit of glue somewhere that's sitting on the surface and exposed. We'll sand this top ledge just a little bit so it's nice and flat when I go to put it in the chuck. But also, I can get done with this 60 grit a whole lot faster than I can be done with 100 grit. And then when I go to 100 grit, I won't have to spend nearly as long with it because I've done the basics with the 60 grit. I'm just looking, make sure I'm pretty homogeneous, that all my scratch lines are even all the way up and down. I've got a little bit more right in this area, some tool marks right there that I didn't quite get out. I can still feel the difference between the solid wood and what was punky. But it's closer to all being the same than what it was originally. And the only tools I've used so far, I've used my 1/2-inch bowl gouge. I use my skew just to straighten up this tenon, shape the tenon, give it the final shape. So I've got a nice slight dovetail going in. It's nice and straight going across. And it's the right size. It's just a little bit larger than my live center. And I know that is the right size. It could be just a touch smaller than what it is. So if I get much smaller than my live center, it's going to be too small for my chuck to grab onto. Recently, I've seen a lot of folks chucking stuff up that did like I used to do when I first started. I thought the larger the chuck, or the larger the tenon, the stronger it would be, and the better the grip the chuck would have on it. And that's just not the case. You get it larger than it needs to be, and the chuck is not gripping all the way around. It's only gripping on the 2 points of each of the 4 jaws. So you want those jaws, when it's closed, you don't want them totally closed. You want them to have about 1/8 of an inch gap between the 2 points. And then you know that they are as close to being perfectly round as they can be. When they're touching that tenon all the way around, that's the strongest grip they could possibly have. You also do not want that tenon to be bottomed out in the chuck. You want the nose of the jaws to be right up against this flat section here. So the jaws themselves are grabbing the tenon, and the nose of the jaws is up against the bottom of your piece, not the bottom of the tenon. That should not be touching anything. If it is, it's much easier to leverage that piece out of your chuck no matter how well you've sized it. If it's too long, it allows that work to be leveraged out of the jaws. That was 100 grit. Going up to, or excuse me, that was 60 grit. We're going to 100 grit now. This won't take just a moment. Radar, if you're watching this, I'm doing everything that you can do, buddy. I'm trying not to do anything you cannot do. The only thing I hadn't thought about, you may or may not have abrasive paste. It doesn't matter whose it is, whether you make it or you use Axe or Brad's or Yorkshire Grit. You can get it. It's not real expensive, and it's awfully good stuff. This can that I'm about to use up, this can here is some that my dad, my brother-in-law, and myself made in this one jar. I don't know how many ounces this jar held. This may be an 8-ounce jar, but that's lasted me a full year and a half. I keep pushing the on button when I want to turn it off. Looks like I've got a couple more projects in there, in that jar. Abrasive paste, it doesn't matter whose you use. It all really should be used the same way. Apply it to your piece. It's not a bad idea to sit and rub it in a bit. You don't feel a lot of the abrasive at this point. You can feel some, and different brands you may feel more. This that I have made, my shop made stuff, I don't feel a lot of abrasive when I'm just rubbing it like this. But now I'm going to turn it on. I'm turning my speed down. Here's 300. That's where we're going to start. I'm going to fold this paper towel yet again. And the idea is you spend a couple of minutes just at the slow speed, just rubbing that, allowing that grit to work. And the longer you spend here, the better it works. The grit actually begins to break down as it does its job. The grit breaks down. I can still feel that punky area every time it comes around, even though I've soaked it. I know Radar soaked it with sanding sealer. I've soaked it twice now with CA glue, thin CA glue. This is going to be a simple finish. I'm not going to go to great lengths with the finish. Alright, I have felt that abrasive breakdown. It's not rubbing nearly as much as it was. I can feel it, I can hear the difference. I'm still using the same section of the pad. I'm back to 500 now. Still rubbing that same section of paper towel. And I probably will spend, well, I won't spend as much time with this as I did the sanding, but close. On a piece of wood that doesn't have any problem areas, sometimes I'll spend a little less time sanding because I don't need to sand as much. Comes off the tool really nice. I'll still start at 60 grit, but then I won't spend as much time at it. This abrasive paste, I'll still spend the time. I'll turn it up one more time before 700 this time. Nothing magical about those numbers. They're just numbers, but it just gives you an idea that I am turning it up, working that grit, allowing the grit to break down, do its job, smoothing out this wood. Now, one word of caution: if you've got splits or voids or anything like that, this stuff will kind of collect in those places. When you get done using your grit and your wax, you need to go back and make sure that all those gaps, all those little holes have been emptied out. You use a toothpick, a dental pick, compressed air, all of the above. But you want to get all that out because when it dries, it will dry white and show up. So you've got to get all that out. So don't be afraid to use your grit and your wax, but you want to make sure that you clean the wood out when you get done. Speed up just a little more. I just changed the spot on my pad. We're up to 950. I'm going up about 200 every time. At least right now. Here in a minute it'll probably jump 300 just because. I don't know if you can see the shine starting to appear or not. Still getting some residue on my paper towel. Just fine. Usually does a couple of times. It's got a couple of factors. There are two things I should have done before I did this. I should have taken the time to wipe it down with denatured alcohol just to clean the dust out of the pores. Also should have used some sanding sealer. I didn't do either one. We're going to go on without it. Let me get a clean paper towel. Had a couple over on the other lathe that were already cut. I need to cut some more. Speed it up again. 1,000 RPMs. $1,200 RPMs. Still got just a little bit of residue. Switch that side. Should come off clean here. Yep, we're clean. Since we're clean there, and that is looking really nice. Spalted area, solid wood, a little bit of lacing right in here, what I call lacing. I've had a couple of pieces of oak that was solid like that right there. Just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Using Hampshire Sheen's food and toy safe gloss wax, finishing wax. We're just going to get a little on the towel. Doesn't take a lot. Nice small piece, and I can get around it really quick. All right, I'm going to turn my lathe down again. There's 200. I'm just using that to rub it in, make sure it's completely coated very nicely. No changes there. Let that continue to spin while I put the lid on my wax. And I want to put the lid on the wax because if I knock that off, I guarantee it's going to go face down into the shavings. Right now, you probably can't see them, but I've got a lot of shavings under my feet. I need to spend a couple hours and clean up. Because of time, I'm going to go ahead and speed the lathe up. That's 1600, and very lightly I'm going to buff that. I'm not going to put hardly any pressure on it. All right, we'll stop there. And yeah, we've got a real nice finish on there. All right, let's take this off and flip it around. Finished getting my live center, well, my tailstock coil pulled all the way back. I'm going to take that out of the out of the quill. The live center, take the live center out of the quill. That way I don't hit my elbow on it. Move my tool rest just a little bit. I want to loosen my headstock. I'm going to turn this. Usually do when I'm turning inside of things out, because it's so much easier for me to get to it and to see it. So I can take my shelf liner off, set it aside. I use that quite often. Double check, make sure I'm square in there. All right, bring my tool rest up. Change the angle. I like my tool rest, or the banjo, pointing off to my right and away from me. That way I've got more room for the handle. Now before I even start, I'm going to take a minute and just run my fingers down through here. There's a thin spot right there. That's the thinnest spot in there. There's still meat there. In fact, let's measure it. I've got a good 5/8, quarter to 5/8 there. I don't want to take a lot out of the inside of this at all. Right here you can see the punky area that has already been hit with CA glue, so it's stiffened up from both sides, inside and out. I've still got plenty of meat right here in the center, or right in the middle of this curve area. I don't have a lot on the edge. So what I want to do is just take a skimming cut. I just want to clean that up. I can go deeper because on the back side it flares out at the bottom. So I can go a little bit deeper, plus it's humped up here in the middle. So I'm just going to take a skimming cut. The only reason I'm doing that is to even up the inside of this bowl from rim to the center. Staying with my 1/2 inch gouge. Let's start at 1200 RPMs. Running nice and smooth. 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Like I said, all we're doing is cleaning it up. Face shield down. What I'm doing here is just trying to get this nice and even. You hear it bumping. I've not touched this section right here. I start here. Keep your finger on that. So that much of it right there has not been touched yet. So I'm going to get it even by cutting not straight in, but I'm going to go in at an angle just to get started, because my meat is down toward here. It's not, I don't have a lot of meat at the edge. My rim is starting to get thin, but where it's warped, I'm trying to get this inside even. Not worried so much about the rim. see there, I'm definitely cutting. I'm getting nice little curls. They're thin little curls, but they're curls. And all I'm doing is trying to even that up. So from the rim to this dark line right here where my thumbnail is, that is fairly even. But as soon as I hit that line, you hear it, and that's where it's uneven. So again, I'm just going to keep going, trying to rub my bevel. I'm having to change my cutting angles a little bit because I'm hitting the bedways, but we're getting there. Again, shield down. Temptation is to try to take off that edge of that rim all in one shot. Well, it's real thin, it won't take much. Well, that's true, but you hit that too hard and it will bust like crazy. I don't know if you can see or not. There's maybe an 1/8 there, down to about a 1/16, close to a 1/16 here. I'm gonna take just a touch more off of it. I'm looking out here at my tool rest, or in between the tool rest and the bowl. There's still a shallow spot right here. We're down to sanding. Tool rest out of the way. And here, I don't typically use my inertia sander on the inside because I can't really get this intersection right here. That still needs a little touch up. I'm not done. Face shield back on. We'll get it just a touch more speed. We're up to 1635, and I'm going to do a shear scrape on that inner edge or inner rim. Very light touch again. All right, I'm gonna slow back down. Again, we're starting with 60 grit to get everything as smooth and even as we can. Make sure we get out all the little lumps and bumps. I'm feeling one right there towards the center. not very much, just a little bit right there. And there's one right in the curve of this. I was feeling less and less comfortable doing it with the gouge. Started to say skew. Skew does not come anywhere near a bowl except to work on that tenon. Maybe if I do a line, if I wanted to cut a line for burning, I might use the skew, or I would use the skew probably. But we're not going to do much cutting at all. All right, just double check. I think that's good on my sanding. I'm gonna blow it off before I make a final determination. I'm sorry this was so loud. If I don't blow it out, I can't see what I got. That is incredibly smooth. There is a check right here that is in the wood. That was there when I got it, and it's still there. I think I don't know how thin it goes. It's not on the back side, so I could take it out, but I really don't want to get it any thinner than what it is. Okay, that's sanded. Let me do this the right way this time. These paper towels are the half sheet rolls. It saves me a cut with my scissors. I take these half sheets and cut them into quarters. If I'm using a quarter sheet, each time I change, get a new one. Let's see, let me get all this cleaned off just real quick. Take this first paper towel, we're going to give it a wipe down with alcohol. All this does is it does two things. It gives me a preview of what this is going to look like, and that is going to be absolutely gorgeous. Radar, I hope you're happy with this, buddy. If you're not, you can send it right back to me. I'll keep it. That's a lovely piece of wood. But then it also gets the dust out. I blew it with my air compressor, but the alcohol takes what's left down in the pores and draws it right out, washes it right out. All right, and as you can see, that's already dry. That alcohol does not take but just a moment to dry. This is cellulose sanding sealer. I mix it up myself. It is the product I use is Deft. It doesn't matter what brand you use. Deft is one of the few that I can still find. Besides, I've used it. I used it in high school. We used it by the gallon. I get this in quarts at a local hardware store. If they don't have it, they will order it, even though they've got to buy several quarts when they get it, and I only need one. They don't mind doing that. If they still got it when I need it next, well, I'll buy some more. But I mix it half and half with lacquer thinner. If I run out of lacquer thinner, I've usually got some acetone around. Either one will work. That is dry to the touch already. It doesn't take long. Then, that's what I should have done on the outside that I did not. Now we're going to come back with our abrasive paste. Yep, I think I've got one more project in that jar. told my dad about that a couple weeks ago, that I'm finally getting where I see the bottom of the jar. He said, "Oh, let's make you up some more. I've got some more. I'll give you." I said, "No, thank you. I've got not only this jar that I'm trying to finish up, but I've got others that I want to use. I want to see if they're any better or not. I want to compare them all. So I won't be using any more of this after I finish it up. Probably the next project. I don't think I can get 2 more out of it, but I do have 1, 2. I've got 2 other jars of regular abrasive paste. I've got a jar of a microfine abrasive paste. I've used a little out of, in fact, I've got 2 jars of the microfine. Yeah, one I've started using, and one is brand new, never been touched. Still got the seal on it. All right, I'm gonna turn this down even more. Here's 200. I'm not gonna spend loads of time. This should be rubbed in at 200 probably for about 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. I'm not usually that patient. Every once in a while I actually do rub it in that long. All right. Got to turn back down because I'm going to come back and do some wax again. All right. Again, the Hampshire Sheen Food and Toy Safe Gloss Finishing Wax. This is a soft carnauba wax. Quite a bit of R&D went into figuring out the formula for this, I understand. Fellow who well, I'll come up with his name here in a minute. And some of you are probably laughing at me. Martin Saban Smith, that's it. He was not happy with the wax he was using, and so he decided to develop his own wax, see what he could do. Yeah, I had a chunk come out of that spotted area. And I was telling you earlier about those cracks. There's that crack that I showed you in here. It has collected all kind of stuff. So after I buff this wax off, I will come back and clean that out. Anyway, Martin Saban Smith, who lives in Hampshire, England, developed this wax, and it's a good wax. He's got many other products as well, but this wax is probably, I'm sure it's his bread and butter. You can buy it here in the United States from the Walnut Log. Well, there's another place or two here in the United States where you can buy it. Just making sure it's spread on there real good and even at this point. I think it is. In fact, it's getting tacky. So I'm going to speed it up. Flip it over to a clean section of the paper. Very light pressure. Like I said a while ago, with all your waxes, the best idea is to apply it, walk off, go to the restroom, grab something cold to drink, give it 20 or 30 minutes, come back and buff it, and that wax will have gassed off all the solvents and will do a much better job. I say that, at the same time, this inside is looking so good. Part of that is because I got the sanding sealer on the inside that I forgot on the outside. But, you know, it's okay. know the Yorkshire grit people say that if you forget the sanding sealer, just do 2 coats of Yorkshire grit, that it works just as well. And it probably does. I wonder if the wax does. Speed that up a little more. I'm up to 1650 now, just to finish off buffing this baby. I'll rub the outside of it. I've already been on here much longer than I planned to. Let me take this off and show it to you. There you go. You saw how punky this wood was. This nice little oak plate. It does have a little bit of gunk down in this crack. Easy to remove. It's not a big deal. Just needs to be removed. Because if I don't take the time to do it, when it dries, it will stand out like a sore thumb, because it will be white, white, white against this beautiful brown wood that I think, and Radar, you feel free to correct me in the comments, I think this is red oak. All right. All right, there it is. Piece of spalted, we'll just say oak for now. I still have to remove the tenon. That's not a big deal. I'll reverse it, chuck it. I've still got my point back here that I started with. So I'll put it back on here. I'll put a pad in here. Put my tailstock up to there, remove that, leave it a slight concave. But Radar, I hope you're happy, buddy. This is a nice little plate. If, like I said a while ago, if you don't like it, feel free just to refuse it, put it back in the mail, return to me, and I'll be glad to pay the return postage on it yet again. But this is your plate, bud. Just wanted to show you there are things you can do, even with wood that is that punky. You had a good start on it. You just need to go a little further with a little CA glue, little super glue to stiffen that up even more, and then you could actually go about doing your business that you needed to finish that up with a bowl gouge and sandpaper. That's all I used, other than use my skew to straighten up the tenon just a little bit. So you know, you did a good job. I just took it one step further. Just wanted to show you that you can do it. You can do it. I know you can. Anybody else out there, if you run into a punky piece of wood like this, it's because of the spaltiness and the punkiness that you had those colors there. It's because of the punkiness and spaltedness that you have these colors here. Otherwise, it would all look like that, and that just gives that much more character to this little plate. That's a little nothing plate. I would bump the price of that if I were to put it out for sale. I'd bump the price by another $10 or $15 just because of this beautiful coloration that was put in here by the rotting process. Well, thanks for being with me. If you haven't already, if you'd subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. If you want to see all my work as I come out with new videos, be sure to hit the notification bell, and that way YouTube will let you know every time I put out a new video. Hit the like button, share it with your friends, whatever you can do to help boost the channel just a bit. The like button helps the analytics so that you can see more of this type of video, wood turning videos. The subscribing helps my channel. I'm trying to get to a level so that I can do some live stuff instead of doing everything recorded. I want to keep doing recorded videos, but I want to do some live videos as well, and you have to have a pretty strong number of subscribers before they'll allow you to do that. So if you would subscribe, if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it. Share it with your friends. share with your friends, and join us on Wednesday nights for Worldwide Wood Turners. This is Doug in the shop of Wood Spun Around. And until we meet again, hope you can spin them round.